This extended video will walk you through step 1 through step 5, how to do a full course. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is, of course, go to the landing page for Banner and type in SSA-SCT, and that's schedule. So let's go ahead and click the schedule. And since we're building from fresh, we won't do a course copy here. We're just going to do a brand new course. So as you can see, it always holds on to the last course that we built. So I'm going to go ahead and clear. Hopefully I can clear this data out. Clear the record out and hit go. And so when I cleared the record, everything went away. First thing, as you know, because you've already seen the tutorials, go ahead and put your year and date. Please don't watch this video unless you've watched the smaller video vignettes, because this video is not going to teach you everything that those videos taught you. It's just going to assume some things that you already know, like you should already know what this term means, right? So go ahead and create your CRN number. And so we're going to create CRN, and you're going to put your subject line in, and this time I'm going to build a biology class. And I am tabbing, and it will autofill. If you see any errors in this area right here, let Lori Chisholm know, or the records office. Section will be, leave it alone, default to 0. Never change the section number. Cross list is 0. You don't, it's just nothing. Don't do anything for that. Hit your ellipsis for your campus. Select your campus is next. Again, I am tabbing, and I'm going to say Bessemer Campus for this course. SC, Bessemer Campus. The status is active, which is A. You can use your ellipsis, but eventually we'll know it's easier just to type in A. But for the purposes of the video, I'll use the ellipsis. Now it's asking me, what kind of course is this? This is the lecture course with the lab. So I'm going to select the one that matches up with my credit hours. So that's for the full course. This is a 4-course course. It is taught through lab as well as lecture. And I'm going to select that. That's really important. Now it's asking me, what method? Is this a traditional course? Is it an online course? I mean, what kind of course is this? So this is, let's say, this is a traditional course. So I'll hit TRA. It'll default to traditional. Be careful when things default. Always understand what you're selecting and what's going on. So if you notice, these two bottom columns are blank. I'm going to come over here, and the only thing I have left is session, as you know from your other training. So I'll do my session, which is going to be, in this instance, let's go ahead and say evening. Okay. So if you notice at the top, all we're doing is the top 4 here, or really top 3, this one defaults. 4 here, and just the session over here. Never fill out any other blanks that are not listed here. That's very important. The only other thing I have to do on my course section information is part of term. I can hit by ellipsis. What term is this? Is this a mini term or is it a regular? I'll just go ahead and select regular for 1. And it will auto default. So that's all I have to do for that section. And now I'm going to move to section 2. Here I'm just going to list for section, oh, I forgot to save. Always save. Now you can save by hitting the save button or F10, which is my favorite. I love F10. It's a great shortcut. Next, section enrollment information. How many seats are in this class? So we'll say 30. And then all I do is hit F10 to save, and I'm going to move on to my next box. Meeting times and instructor. For meeting times and instructor, the first box I really need to get to is the meeting time. So I'm going to hit the tab key. And it's asking me, remember ellipsis, it's going to default, but you always need to look to see what this is asking. Don't assume it's defaulting correctly. So they're asking you for this section that you're building, is this a class? Right? Is it a lecture? What is it? Is it a class or is it online? Those are usually the two options that we have. So just class is fine. and they're asking you for the meeting dates and times. So let's just say Tuesday and Thursday. And again, we're talking about the first, oops, this says it moved to chat. Oh, I'm glad I saw that. There we go, class. It's general class. Okay. Tuesday, Thursday, and remember we do military time, 4 digits for everything. And I selected evening, right? So let me move over. Let me move this over here. Here we go. It's one thing I don't like about this banner page. I just think it has too much on one line, but we'll get used to it. So let's say this class starts at 5:30 in the evening. 5:30. Let me go back. 17:30. I'm sure my times are going to be wrong. To, let's say, 18:45. Okay? And it's session 1, meaning that I have, for this session, it'll be session 1 for the first session of this class. But remember, biology classes have 2 sessions, right? So I'm going to go ahead and insert my next section for my lab. Class meeting time, meeting type. I'll say lab. And I'm going to go ahead and put my lab in Thursdays. No, I'll say Friday, so I don't have to worry about my times. And I'm going to say 17:30 to 19:30 for my lab. Okay, and then I'm going to change this to session. No, I'm going to leave it the same. I'm going to leave it to 0101 because I have the same teacher. And we talked about this in the earlier videos. If I have the same teacher, then it's 0101. Okay? It's 0101. If I have a separate lab instructor, which is very odd, then that would be session 2. Okay? The minute I fill that out, it takes me to my next page. It just advances automatically. I didn't have to do anything. It just advanced. So now I'm going to go to my building. Hopefully, as I taught you before in the other training videos, you already know you have your building codes, and you know what building you're going to be in, and you need to fill this information in right here. If not, you can search the ellipsis and go and look up your campus codes and building codes. So we know that, let's see, campus, I believe we said Bessemer, if I'm not mistaken, SC for Bessemer. And then I can search in Bessemer what building we're going to be in. So let's say building A, BWA. Let me make sure that's right. Let me go down. I want to look at all the options because, let's see, we have a couple of building A's, don't we? Let's see. And I think what's interesting about this, or what's confusing rather, is that they're mixing campus buildings, because I see things like the Horn Building and A.G. Gaston Building and Apple Hall, which we know are, and Arthur Shore's Gym, that's a perfect example. We know those are codes for the Birmingham campus. That's what made me stop. So here's building A, Bessemer. So this is a little confusing because if we have the same buildings, but I guess they're just called something else. So I'm going to talk to Jamie about that, but I don't know if there's anything we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit go to search that. Campus SC. I think what will happen is that it'll signal us if we select the wrong code, possibly. So once you figure out the building and the building descriptions and you hit select, it'll populate. Okay, so I'm going to put like room 256 because I kind of know that number. Okay, and you can always search. If you want to search your rooms, you can also search your rooms, and you learned that in the other video. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm tabbing now. And again, I have 2 sessions running, so I'm going to say it's asking me for the session type. This is for the lecture portion, so I don't put lecture, experiment, lab again. Now I'm breaking down exactly what I'm doing for this in this room. So I'm saying the lecture will occur in room 256, okay? That's why it's important for me to select that. The lecture is happening here, and it's running 2.5 hours a week, and it's going to be 3 credits for the lab. So I changed that, okay? Then I'm going to come to my next area. Here I'm going to definitely just type in, and I'll put my room number 257. And here I'm going to identify this is for my lab. Experimental lab, 1 credit. See that? So I'm specifically telling the system where these things are. And this is going to be 1 credit. See that? And so it basically took that information, okay? So now we have our locations, we've selected our buildings, and remember for this first part, if you're in pre-prod, like we're in pre-prod right now, pre-production, you may not be able to put the instructors in, but I'm going to just go ahead and show you how to do that for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to go ahead and save and make sure there's no errors. Good. And so everything seems to be okay in terms of what we put in. So now I want to go into and putting in my instructor information. Okay. So all I did was I just clicked. I didn't tab. I just clicked right into the instructor. So this is session 1, right? Remember we have 2 sessions going. So I'm just going to go in and hit the ID information. I'm going to hit the ellipsis. When I get to this page, don't let it fool you. Just go ahead and hit faculty's already checked off. Go ahead and tell it to search faculty. Put in your last name for the person. So let's see, I'll look for Tracy Wilson. Capitalize the W, capitalize the name, and put your percent down to have the system to search for you, and hit go. And find that individual that you need. Highlight that person by clicking on the name and hit select. One thing I do like about faculty, it's really easy to put faculty in. And we won't worry about the percentages right now. Let's go ahead and insert our second instructor. Because remember up here, we have 2 sessions. That's saying that we have a second person that's teaching lab. That's unusual. Normally it's going to look like this, guys. Let me see if I can get over here. Normally this is what you're going to have. That indicates that Tracy Wilson is teaching both of those sections, and you won't have a second person. That is normally how you'll do like a biology course. So that is the correct way of doing it. If you have a second person, then you can come down here and select a second person, and it would be session number 2, and insert your second person. And you saw how to do that in the last video, right? So I won't have to do that here. But normally, this is what it's going to look like. Okay? So, believe it or not, we're done. We have scheduled everything. We put these individuals in the right location. Let me just check. The only thing I see, though, I think the workload is at 4, but I believe it should be at, let me go back if I can get that, 4. So I think what I'm going to have to do, and we can check with Jamie about this, is to build that second session. But no, it's not letting me. So that's really interesting. I wonder why the workload is at, let's see if it's letting me. No, that's the only thing I have a question about. I'm going to go and look workload at 3. That could be an error in our system. Navigate to instructor block, please use. Okay. When you get that message, navigate to instructor block, it just means you need to hit one of these blocks down here to move on. So, like I said, everything looks okay, except the question that I have for this one would be, why is my instructor workload only 3? And it could have been an error somewhere that we just missed. I'm going to go around and take a look. We did label them up here, 3 and 1. We did them correct here, but the workload is not matching. Well, I will say this, if you ever hit something like this, you do what I do. We're going to have to ask the higher ups, those who are managing banner for us, why is that saying 3 and not 4, right? Because we do have everything here and we have everything here. So that's all we can do is try to figure it out. So don't worry about that right now. Just remember that if you do encounter something like that in the system and you see an error like that, do what I'm doing, which is to kind of freeze it and say, wait a minute, you flagged that CRN on your sheet, and that's something that we're going to have to come back and look at. But for the purposes of this video, you've been trained on how to build a course.